I think we all have heard at least once or twice in our life someone say to you, you must face your greatest fears within yourself, or face your inner demons. And that alone perfectly represents this episode of Samurai Jack Season 5. Ever since the first episode of Season 5, we have seen Jack in a very different way. He is no longer the samurai we knew in the first 4 seasons. He's a broken shell of this former samurai, and he is controlled by negative emotions. He's someone that has lost all hope. Even the opening song of Samurai Jack Season 5 is very depressing and grim. Jack has lost all hope, and he says so many things are negative, and he thinks of the worst possible outcome. That is something that we have seen from Jack's character throughout Season 5. And after all of these episodes, Jack is finally having to face his greatest enemy yet, which is his own self, his inner demon. And we've seen this persona pop up. Jack has been talking with this other side to himself within him, and we've seen other characters look at Jack from the outsider's perspective and see how crazy he is. He's literally talking to himself. And finally, after all this time, Jack decides to confront this and finally deal with what the main problem is, and that is himself. So, before I get into talking about the inner demon, let's talk about what led to this and why Jack had to do this in the first place. As we know, Jack was going through a lot of emotions in the recent episodes, and thanks to, having to take someone's life, Ashley's sister's lives, and then also all the other things he's done on his journey, like killing innocent animals, to just all the time portals being closed up, Aku playing with him, just all these different things that's happened. Obviously, a man would eventually become broken after many years pass, and because of this and what happened, he lost his sword. Now, we all thought that Jack lost his sword because he misplaced it, or it fell in a hole and he just couldn't find it. That's what we assumed. Even when this episode started, that's what we assumed. Like, majority of the episode, like about 30% to 40% of the episode is spent going down this hole just to see where Jack's sword is. And we come to find out, Jack never really lost the sword thanks to it just, falling in a hole or something. He lost the blade, which was within himself. It's very symbolic, and I like that message of this episode, showing that it's actually showing Jack, because of how he has changed, his viewpoint on the world, how it's been warped, and how he's a broken shell of a man. That is what caused his blade to disappear. Since we do know his blade is a magical weapon, it's the only blade that can harm Aku and kill Aku, obviously it would have something very different from a normal blade. Obviously, a blade like this, it was taken away because Jack wasn't fit to wield this blade because of what he did, but also how he felt about everything around him. So the gods took away the only thing that he could use to fight Aku. And the only reason why he never found it was because of the other side within himself, his inner demon. And like I said, the very nature of that is very symbolic. I like that theme of this and how, since the first episode of Season 5, has been building to this very point, and then also just seeing how Jack has been overcoming so many things within himself, like last week's episode, overcoming, suicide. He was going to kill himself, and he actually overcame that, and he is now going down a proper path. And then with this episode, he's finally looking within himself and trying to find what he lost. So, I will say, I really appreciate what the writers are doing with these recent episodes of Samurai Jack. So, with that being said, enough with the groundwork, let's talk about the inner struggle, which is something that I really love seeing in any form of literature. One of the big things that always fascinate me is when you see a character fight within themselves. They struggle with their other side. That is something I've always found very fascinating, and seeing something like this in Samurai Jack, it just really surprised me with how well it was done. When you see Jack, he's just meditating. He's just sitting here all calm and all that, and nothing He can't hear anything on the outside. Like, he doesn't know what's going on. And this is displayed by the fact with the contrast between Ashley's scenes and Jack, and how she's going through her own troubles throughout this episode, which I'll get into in a moment, while Jack is doing his own thing, and he's meditating and looking within himself to fix the problems that's going on. And like I said, the contrast between that to show how deep in meditation Jack was really just shines right there, because you're like, damn, he didn't even hear anything that was going on. He didn't hear these arrow sword clashes or anything. He's fully focused on fixing whatever is wrong with him. So it just shows you how much he's trying to better himself as a person. So when he goes within himself, you see this very peaceful scenery. You have it to where almost in a way, it seems like you might be on an acid trip or something just because of how beautiful it looks. The art style of the episode is just fabulous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and Samurai Jack does do this quite often. There's a lot of different episodes that I have seen throughout the first 4 seasons, and even this, season as well, to where episodes can be very colorful. The color palette of this episode, especially inside of Jack's head when he was meditating, was truly beautiful, especially when he was just looking around and all that, and eventually when he came into this room and he met this old monk, and this monk was pretty much asking Jack to make him tea, and Jack was making tea, and then the monk is like, you're missing something. You have all the ingredients, but you're still missing something. You're missing, like, that flavor. And what Jack was missing was balance within himself. He had a unnatural state within himself. He was more on the side of aggression, hatred, negativity than he was on the positive side. But to have positive, you also need to have negative. So there needs to be a balance between the sides, yin and yang. But he did not have that, which resulted in him losing his sword. So finally, once he's confronting this old monk, his other self pops out. And remember, this is all going inside of Jack's head. Jack is like having a combo within himself. And his other side, this angry side to him, starts talking to Jack like, we don't need him. Like, you know what, how much suffering we've been through, how much pain and all that. You see this angry Jack just popping out, just very angry. And this is kind of how Jack has been throughout Season 5. And then pretty much, Jack is like, we don't need you, stop it, you need to control yourself, you're the reason why that we haven't been able to do anything. And Jack basically says, I no longer need your rage, I no longer need your hatred, I no longer need your negativity, I need to focus on what needs to be done. It's like Jack, he's looking at himself, he's battling himself, and he's coming to terms with everything that has happened. Everyone that he's either accidentally killed or killed willingly, to everything he failed to do and still has trying to accomplish, he has accepted everything. He has come around to where he understands that he needs to continue pushing on down his path instead of just sitting down on the side of the road. He needs to move forward, and that's kind of what that entire scene represented. He is done with sitting on the side. He's finally willing to pick up his sword, put his clothes on, and continue marching on instead of just sitting on the side of the road, wallowing in his own misery. And when he said, I don't need you, it's like, I don't need these thoughts. I don't need your anger and aggression, your negativity, to make me to where I can continue maybe waking up every morning or probably living or whatever. I don't need that. I have my own goals and things I need to accomplish before everything is said and done. So when the angry, evil Jack disappears, the inner demon, Jack goes through kind of like a transformation. He goes back to his old status from the first 4 seasons of Samurai Jack, which that scene was so emotional because it's not just the fact that his design is very similar, like it's the exact same as the first 4 seasons, it's the fact, the meaning of that. As I've already said, Jack faced the demon within himself, something that plagued him, and he faced it and he overcame it. So even if he has a very similar design, even though he has his sword back, he still isn't the exact same Jack we knew from the first 4 seasons. He may be similar in design and all that, but his personality, his mind, and everything about him has matured, because he has faced probably his greatest enemy. I mean, Aku is the greatest evil, but always, when it comes to people, everyone has evil within themselves. That's just how it is. That's how, humanity is. We all have evil within ourselves, so eventually sometimes we might need to face and overcome, and that's what Jack had to do. Before he could ever take on someone that's evil like Aku, he needed to face the evil within him and finally be able to overcome it. And so when you see this man stand up, grab his sword and all that, his clothes change, the beard goes away, which I'm sad that his beard's gone, by the way. I really love that, rugged look he had going on, but his beard's gone, he got out of the rags, and he finally is in his attire. It made me feel like, oh my god, I feel like I'm a kid, like I'm seeing my Samurai Jack from the original series finally back with his original design. I was like, oh my god, this is just emotional. And when he gets the sword and all that, you hear that music in the background just ramping up and all that. It just shows that Jack has had like an epiphany. He has realized what he needs to do, and the gods finally blessed him once again and handed over his blade. So a very emotional moment for Jack and all fans that were watching that. I gotta commend the writers and also anyone that worked on this episode. They did a fabulous job with everything I saw. Now, enough with the Jack stuff. Let's talk about the Ashy stuff, because that was very important to this episode as well. I just wanted to get the Jack stuff out of the way, because that, as, you know, a kid that grew up with this series and been seeing this, it just is like, oh my god, like, it really just brings out that nostalgia, especially when you see Jack's design. But let's talk about Ashy. So, within Jack, as we know, it was very calm and he was just confronting his own problems. Outside, there was another issue going on. Ashy was tasked with protecting Jack, and she couldn't help Jack in any way within himself. He had to face that path on his own. However, when it came to the outside world, Ashy was tasked with protecting Jack as long as he needed. And it could have taken a long time, could have possibly taken days, who knows. But Ashy had to protect Jack. And we see this army marching up to the mountain where Jack is, and Ashy needs to stop this entire army by herself. Now, as we know, Ashy, she has been training since birth. She is a very gifted warrior. We've seen she's very powerful. I mean, look what she did to Jack. Even though Jack kind of beat her, she's still very powerful. You should not underestimate her skills and talents as a fighter. So she had to fight off this entire army to protect Jack, which is just very impressive, and my respect for Ashy's character just went completely up. I mean, I already liked her from what I saw from last episode, but just seeing what she did in this episode for Jack, sitting there defending him and all that, and then once all that was done with the entire army, she straight up confronts her mother, which, by the way, I cannot believe that plot point happened so quickly. I mean, I thought that was going to be like one of the final parts of Season 5, like, you know, Episode 10 or so of Season 5. I did not think that we would have this right now in the middle of, you know, Season 5, so that caught me by surprise. When Ashy was looking at her mother, I'm like, okay, this is going to be the true test of how much Ashy has changed. Has she developed as a person to where she finally is on Jack's side, or will she go over to her mother's side and then turn against Jack? That was the question I had, and I mean, this could have easily went bad. I mean, look at this. Look at it like this, okay? Let's say Ashy would have had a change of heart. She could have possibly have captured Jack, or, you know, the mother could have captured Jack and then drug him off into a prison cell while he was in meditation. It could have easily have happened, or killed him, too, because he was completely defenseless. He wasn't protecting anything on the outside world. He is completely focused on within himself. So Ashy stood up to her mom. And you gotta admit, even though Ashy has been warped, and also she knows the truth now, it still takes a lot of will to be able to stand up against someone like that, your own mother, because Ashy was tormented, basically, at an early age. She was thrown into, like, hot coals and fire and all that to burn her skin and put ash all over her. She was forced to constantly train, never see the outside world, you know, kill the samurai, become a machine, and she was warped. Her entire essence was warped. She was just changed. She wasn't a typical normal, you know, human girl. She was changed thanks to her upbringing, and for her to be able to confront her mother and face her and then even strike her down, it takes a lot of will to be able to do that. So when Ashy finally stood up to her mother and then struck her down, it proved that she is ready. She has made a change of heart. She has also faced her inner demon. She has also faced the problems that were within herself, and she has overcame this, and she is now ready to strike down at the true evil, which is Aku. And I also like that little added exchange with the combo between Ashy and her mother, to where Ashy's mother was like, you know he killed your sisters, are you fine with this? And Ashy was like, I understand that, yes he did, but it wasn't completely his fault why he did it. We were trained to kill and all that, that was just our one objective, we were like machines. I like that exchange, the combo between mother and daughter, because it shows that she doesn't blame Jack for her sister's death. She doesn't hold that against him. That was something I thought was going to be used in the future for a possible plot point, but no, it was, you know, completely handled right here in this episode, so just job well done, once again, to the writers of this episode. So, yeah, Samurai Jack's latest episode, quite a phenomenal episode. My favorite, yeah, because I just, all the development that Jack got, like how much he just changed in this episode, it's amazing. So, tell me your thoughts. How do you feel about Jack facing his inner demon? How do you feel about Ashy standing up to her own mother and striking her down? How do you feel about the balance of yin and yang going on within Jack? How do you feel about that final line of this episode where Jack's like, the next stop Aku. How do you feel about all the stuff that's going on? Please be honest in the comments below, and I love you all so much. Please be safe. Chibi out.